All right. Hello, everybody. We'll get started. A few people may straggle in as we go here, but I think it's high time we got down to this. Hello, everyone. For those of you that maybe don't know me, I'm Sarah. I'm the director up at Unilei. First session starts in just 1 month. I'm so excited to see some of you first session campers in just a month. And for those that are coming to second or third, they won't be far behind. We're almost here. And I am so excited. Camp is happening this summer. I really can't explain how glad I am that we're able to operate and we're able to do it in a safe way. And thank you so much for all coming this evening and listening to what I have to share. The way I'll structure this is I'll just give some brief updates at the beginning. Some of it you might have heard before if you were at our last Q&A. And then I'll share some links that people like at the end of my little spiel. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you've been to one of these Q&As before and you're like, I don't have any questions, I just wanted to, I just wanted to get the updates, then you can drop off after that. Yeah, so I'm just getting a message that I have the wrong link up on Instagram, but hopefully somebody will they'll figure it out. They'll get to our website because I don't think I can fix it at this point. Sorry for my little bit of distraction there. Anyway, so updates when it comes to camp this summer. Things that happened since our last meeting that was big was both the CDC and the California Department of Health came out with new guidelines for summer camps operating this season. And as such, we made some updates to our procedures and we pushed all of those out to you all in the COVID procedures document that you've been signing. One update that was not actually in that procedure document that everybody signed, but is really important, and we've been emailing out to people, but may or may not have read your email. We also have sporadic emails going to spam for sure, is that in part of the CDC guidance, one of the updates was that if people are fully vaccinated, meaning that they've either gotten the one shot of Johnson & Johnson or both shots of Pfizer and Moderna and have passed the 14-day waiting period past their shots, then they no longer need to have a negative test before arrival at a program like ours. So now when you arrive for camp, we are either taking a negative PCR test within 3 days of arrival or proof of full vaccination. You don't have to have both in order to come to camp. Either or is going to be great. So that was really the major update that we made from the CDC guidance, which was a nice update to be able to give our families more options when it comes to coming to camp. Another update that was in the procedures that got pushed out to all of you for signing, and we discussed at one of our other meetings, was the updates on usage of masks in our cohorts. It's along with the CDC guidance, but we had already been working on making this update that within the cohorts we've loosened all our procedures basically. So when campers are just within their cohort, which is going to be the majority of the time, masks are not going to be required in that space, and strict social distancing is not required in that space either. So really within the cohorts, when they're just in their little living groups, which again is going to be most of the time, life is going to look pretty normal. It's what it's going to look like. It's going to be nice. And then we do still ask that everybody bring a mask, multiple masks to camp. So if you're in the base camp program, we are going to do all camp activities where we'll get together and we'll socially distance and we'll wear our masks. We're going to have some evening programming, and we're also going to do some stuff for special day when we're all in a group together, some socially distanced group games, etc. So you just need to bring your mask to camp, as well as if you ever need to say, go see the nurse and be in the nurse's building, you have to have a mask. If you're in a trail program, you're going to have less needs for masks, although everybody will need a mask at arrival when you do our arrival procedure. And also for those that are on our trail programs, we do ask that you have a mask there too, because if you run into other people in the public, both for your own safety, but also as a courtesy to those that you counter on the trail, we ask that you put a mask on when you're interacting with other people from the public that you might run into on the trail. What other updates? Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about our arrival procedure too. I've actually put together a video of exactly how arrival procedure is going to work, and that's on our COVID-19 resource page. And I will drop the link to our COVID-19 resource pages into the chat just after I sort of do my spiel here with a few other useful links. But just to do a real brief overview, when you arrive at camp, there's going to be a screening process. Everybody has staggered arrivals. Please make sure you arrive at your arrival time. Please try not to be late because things will get stacked up. If you're a little early, that's okay. You can just hang out in your car until your actual arrival time. There'll be a sign-in table. We'll have markers so that families can wait 6 feet apart. We ask that the camper and one parent or guardian come without your baggage up to our sign-in table. You'll have your temperature checked. You'll be asked if you have had any symptoms, and then we will ask to either see your proof of your negative PCR test or proof of full vaccination, unless you have already given us proof of your full vaccination well in advance. I know some families have already sent it to us, and in that case, we'll have that marked on our sheets and we'll already know that you're fully vaccinated, so you don't have to satisfy that part of the screening. Then we're going to have everybody do a rapid antigen test. For camp, how that will work is you will actually do your own self-swab. I'm going to put a little link into the chat as well after this that shows, I believe they're like first or second graders doing the self-swabs on them, because it's really easy. And so everybody can see what the process looks for doing your self-swab. You will then hand your self-swab to the person administering the test. They're going to stick it into a BinaxNOW rapid antigen test, add a little reagent, and then they're going to set it to do its thing for 15 minutes. During that 15 minutes while you're waiting for your negative test result, you're going to go give any medications that you might have to our nurse for the session, and as well just check in with them about any allergies that you have, so we can make sure your health form is updated. And then we'll ask you to return to your car to wait out the remainder of your test results. And then once you get your negative results, as we're hoping everybody gets, then one of your counselors will come to your car and get you and take you to your group's meeting area. An important question we've had, which we do have answers to, is what happens if I get a positive test result on my rapid test? So we would not take we follow up every positive antigen test with a PCR test. And so in the case that we do get a positive antigen test, then we're going to do a PCR test on you, which we will have to which will take longer to get results. And so during that time that we're waiting for results, the camper does need to stay in isolation until we get a negative PCR test result. And the camper and the parent will have a choice of where they want that isolation to be. If they want the camper to come up to camp and isolate at camp, that's something that we can do. If they prefer, with the understanding that if the tests were to come back positive, the parent or guardian would then have to come back and get their camper. If the parent and camper prefer to stay isolated at Scott Mountain Summit in a nearby town until those results come back, that's also an option. And then if the results were negative, we would just have the camper arrive to their group late. So there'll be those two options if we did happen to get a positive rapid test at the summit. And again, clearly, if we had a positive PCR test follow-up, then that camper would need to go home and should isolate for real, because it's most likely, or highly, highly, highly likely, that they are in fact infected with COVID. But we are obviously very much hoping that that doesn't happen, but are just checking all our boxes and making sure. One reminder to any first session families out there, if you haven't gotten your paperwork in yet, it was due today. Please do get your paperwork in as soon as possible. For second and third session families, your paperwork isn't due until 30 days before the start of your session, but if you can get it in earlier, it's really helpful for us, especially in this year. We're doing a very, very thorough check of everybody's health history before they come up to camp, and giving us extra time to do that really helps. So if you have the time to get in there, fill out those forms, especially the health history before that 30-day deadline, and send it to Claudia, our office manager at office@GoCampU. I'm just going to drop that email into the chat too. That will be really helpful. And I see that there are a couple of questions, and I'll get them to a second. I'm just going to drop a few things into the chat for everybody's reference. The first one is office@gocampu.com. That's Claudia, our office manager's email, where you want to send any paperwork you have. My email is friends@gocampu.com. If you have a question that doesn't get covered here, or you have a question that's like, oh, it's just too complicated to say in this Q&A, or it's just too specific to my family, please feel free to email me. As well, an important link for many, many families this summer is how to get to Scott Mountain Summit, which is the drop-off location for campers. And here is a link to those driving directions to getting to Scott Mountain Summit. As well, something we've been asked for many times in the past in these Q&A is a pack list for our base camp program. And I am entering a link to our base camp pack list here. As well, if you're in one of our Summit to Summit programs, then you should have hopefully received an email from our trail coordinator to do a pre-camp planning Zoom meeting. And in that email that you were sent by her, there should have been a Summit to Summit pack list attached to it. The third link I'm going to add here is the one that I already mentioned to you about the nasal swab video. If you're feeling a little nervous or just curious what this nasal swab that you're going to have to do when you arrive at camp is, this video here is a short, I think it's about a 1.5 minute video that shows how the nasal swab is done and has children doing it. So you will see that it is something that anybody who's coming to camp should be able to handle. It's really not scary. And then last, I just need to pull up here, is our COVID-19 resources page, which I want to share with you all, which has a bunch of great stuff, including our full camper procedures in both English and Spanish, as well as our full, just our full COVID procedures if you want to see all the rules for staff, et cetera, et cetera. That's also on there. And there's also that video that I just put the link to is also on that page. This is also the page where the link to this Q&A that we're doing, excuse me, the video for this Q&A that we're doing right now is going to be posted. And as well, you will find that video I mentioned earlier, which goes into more detail describing what the arrival and screening process looks like, so that you can, if you watch that, I think it's about 4 minutes, then you'll really have a good idea of what it looks like when you arrive at camp this summer, because it's definitely going to look different than it normally has. And I am going to get to some questions now. We see, should we bring her COVID vaccine card or send a copy? So I think the easiest thing would be if you take a, if you make a copy of it to bring with you to give to us. That would be the most preferable. If you just bring the actual card and we just look at it, we'll still let you come. But our preferred option would be for you to bring a copy. Is there going to be a bus this year? There is not going to be a bus. For those campers that really can't get transportation, we do recognize that getting to camp is a barrier for some people being able to participate in wilderness experiences like ours. And part of our mission has always been to make sure that we're making our programs available for campers who otherwise wouldn't be able to be part of our programs. And we know that transportation is a big part of that. And so for those families that not having transportation to camp would be a deal breaker, that it would just mean that they wouldn't be able to be part of the program. We are providing transportation, but it is in small cohort groups. We're arranging carpools within cohorts, and we are doing some small vehicle transport within the cohorts, but it's not normal bus transportation or anybody that can provide transportation to their camper. That is by far the most preferred method for this summer. So for those that are vaccinated, they still are going to take the rapid test upon arrival. You just don't have to get a PCR test beforehand. We're going to do rapid arrival tests for everybody, including our staff, actually. And photocopy a vaccine card is great. Photo on iPhone is also acceptable, but photocopy would be preferred so that we can put it in your file. But if you only come with a photo on a phone, we'll still take you. And yeah, other questions. If somebody has a question they'd like to voice as well, go ahead and use the little raise your hand button, and then you'll pop up where I can see you and you can voice your question that way as well. I have a question about, will we get info about others in our campers cohort? So if you're in first session or second session, you should have already received an email which includes your drop-off time and drop-off and pickup times from Scott Mountain Summit. And in that email, there was a link to a message board, which is just a Google document where campers can share information with each other. Just because of privacy concerns, we can't actually share campers' contact information with others without their permission. And unfortunately, we haven't asked for people's permission, so we don't have anybody's permission. But if you were in first or second session, you should have already received an email that had your arrival and departure times and had a link to this message board where you can leave your information, and hopefully other people can leave their information about who they are. If you had requested a specific person on your form that you wanted to be in a group with, and you're wondering if you are in fact in that person's specific group, then go ahead and email either me or our office and say, hey, am I in, Butterfly Sam's group like I asked to be, and we will let you know if you are. So far, I think we've been pretty good at accommodating those requests. So it should be. And if you're in third session, we have not quite figured out our third session cohorts yet, but we should have those out by the end of by the end of next week. And does the PCR test return positive if you have had? Does the PCR test return positive if you have had COVID in the past but are not currently sick or able to spread it to other people? It shouldn't. And actually, the guidance, if you want to email me directly, if you have had COVID in the last 3 months, basically you don't need to get that test. And if that is in fact your case, please email me directly and I will tell you what we need from you. But the test should not come up that way, but actually the CDC guidance says that if you have had it in the last 3 months, then you don't need to get a PCR test either. But we didn't detail that one out as we don't know that many people that have got COVID, which is really great. But if you have had COVID, email me and I will send you more detailed information on what we're looking for from you pre-arrival. Any other questions out there? And we'll just, while anybody thinks about it, I know that some hesitations that I've heard about this summer, especially of our base camp programs is, well, is it going to be really different than normal camp, or, am I still going to like it? And I think the answer is yes, it's going to be different, but yes, you're still going to have a great time. Campers are still going to get to do all the activities that they normally would get to do. I know at one of these other Q&As, there was a question, can we still have eating contests on Saturday? And we talked about it, and the answer is definitely yes. We're definitely still going to have eating contests on special day. They're going to be a little socially distanced and they're going to be a little different. And so a lot of the things we're going to do at camp, we're figuring out ways to do in a socially distanced way. And so that they're still safe, and we're still going to do a lot of the things. We're just going to get to spend a lot more time with those in our cohorts. And that's actually going to provide a really great opportunity for us to get to know those people better and to really, really make strong connections and feel like we have this real family that we've been with for the last 2 weeks. So I think it's going to have some added benefits that we maybe even didn't imagine. And we did get a few more questions that I'll look at here. So for the message boards I mentioned, that was in the, you're in first or second session. If you're in third session, you haven't gotten this yet. If you were in first or second session, you should have received an email that was titled something like first session arrival and departure times. And it is in that email, a link to the message board, which is just for your cohort. If you didn't get that email and you're in first or second session, send me an email and I will send you that email. I have a question here. No electronics, correct? That is correct. No electronics at camp. There are some exceptions. Digital cameras that are only cameras are allowed. Flashlights. are also allowed. What other electronics are allowed? There's probably a couple of them I'm not thinking of right this second, but there's probably some other battery powered things.
Sarah, when you get a chance, I do have a question. I couldn't find the little raising hand button.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it. There's a few more here, but I can just take yours while you got my attention. Go for it.
So Avery has a lot of problem with mosquito bites. I'm trying to figure out what will be the best mosquito net. I've been looking at pop-up mosquito nets. Will that be allowed for him if he brings one of those?
100% allowed. I'm not remembering what the name of the product is right now, but there's this one that's it's a pop-up mosquito net that it's like basically just a tent that goes over your head and then has like a kind of sheet that goes down from there. I want to say they're about $15, and I would highly recommend those. Those work really well. We actually have a few of them at camp to lend to campers who get bit really, really, really badly. And
right. And yeah, that's the only thing that. Yeah, that's the only thing that. So I saw one on Amazon that you kind of like throw it in the ground, and it opens up. It doesn't look really big, and it looked like he can put it. It's the same size as his sleeping bag.
Yeah,
so I'm thinking for him that would be perfect if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's totally okay with us. I'm trying to see if really quick if I can find the name of the one. It's not the one that has worked really, really well for us isn't just a pop-up one. It actually has small poles in it. But the whole thing is still very light. But I'm just forgetting what the name of it is right now. I'm doing it
as okay when you get a chance, if you remember.
I'm trying to, but if you send me an email, I can definitely find you that product and specifically send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going back to the chat question. What temperature rating do you all recommend for Summit for sleeping bags? Yeah, I would recommend probably a 20-degree bag, which I know sounds cold or like a low rating, but you really just don't want to be too cold. And sometimes it does get cold at night. So I would say 20 degrees is probably preferable, would be my recommendation. For the Summit to Summit program, yeah, as soon as you are dropped off at Scott Mountain Summit, you go directly onto the trail from there. You don't actually ever go into the basin on your first day. If you're in a Summit Extra program, you'll go in on a different day, but if you're in a straight Summit to Summit, then it's just onto the trail for the whole entire time. The question, there was a question about the campers' first time at camp, figuring out what the program or the schedule is. It depends on which program they're in. Are they in the base camp program or are they in one of the trail programs?
It was my question. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm just so new to this camp, so I'm just such a newbie. And I'll do more research. I don't remember. I know he's in third session, and I know it has a backpacking component. I think it's not the highest level, but it's the medium level. Does that make sense?
Maybe, yeah. So if the ones that are in the middle are the hiking or wild program, if it's one of those, it does definitely depend which program they're in. They all do have hiking. If it's the hiking or wild program, then they're out on the trail. Then they come into the base camp for this third session. They come in the base camp for 1 day. They're out on the trail for 8 days, and then they're back in the base camp for 1 day. If it's the base camp program, which is the least hiking, then they come up to the basin for 4 nights. Then they're out on the trail for 2 nights, and then they're back in the basin for another 3 nights. Or I'm doing math wrong, 4 nights before they go home.
And the way I learn more about that is I just go on your website or?
So for the base camp program, there's a lot more information about it on the website. Yes, if you're wondering about one of the other programs, email me and I can give you a more detailed description, because the descriptions of the other programs on the website are less detailed than the base camp program. The base camp program is pretty detailed though on the website.
I don't think that's the one he's doing. So, okay, I'll email you. Thank you.
Okay. Great. I see, is a watch allowed? Yes, watches are definitely allowed. So yeah, we're trying to get tests in between 72 hours. Our medical experts have assured me that most places should be able to get test results back within 72 hours. If the place that you are near that has testing does not get test results back into 72 hours, if they've told you there's absolutely no way that it'll be back in 72 hours, then it's okay to extend that ever so slightly so that you get your test results back. But please try and make it as close to 72 hours as you can. And like I said, although a lot of testing sites don't guarantee 72 hours, a lot of them do in fact do it in that time frame. And sometimes just a call to them can confirm that most of the time it's in that time range. Do base camp campers need to haul their stuff long distance from drop-off location? No, they don't. Once you're at the drop-off location, we will take all of their gear to our base camp in our trucks, and campers do walk into our base camp, but they just need to carry their water bottle and maybe a hat on their head, something like that for that walk up to camp. We will take all of their gear up to base camp in our trucks. So yeah, so as far as what kind of bags they bring to camp, it doesn't have to be one that they need to be carrying long distances. Once they're at base camp to get to their actually campsite, they do need to carry their stuff some distance. So duffel bags are preferable to wheeling suitcases because there's no cement at camp. And so wheeled suitcases don't work particularly well on our dirt paths. Let's see if there's any more. Okay, don't see any more hands up there. Any more with questions that are easier with a hand? Okay, well then I will leave it open for a couple more minutes, but it seems like we've got most of our questions. I've got recommendations on where to stay for pickup. Yeah, if you're looking for a hotel, I would look in Weed or Mount Shasta. There are lots of them there. And so probably that's where you're going to get the best price. And that's about an hour from where our pickup is. And that's right on I-5. If you're looking for camping, there is so much camping in the area. There's actually a campground right at Scott Mountain Summit where our drop off is, as well as down Highway 3 all along Lake Trinity. There's a ton of campgrounds there, which are actually beautiful. They're right on the lake. There's some that are right on the creek that are really quite pleasant. And so looking for camping, I would look along the different campgrounds that are along the Highway 3, and you can find more access to those campgrounds if you go to the Shasta Trinity National Forest website and then look at their campgrounds and look at the Trinity unit. That'll list out all of their campgrounds. And there are a few more questions. Summit to Summit Extra does not participate in Special Day. No, they will have their own special days on the trail, but they will not be part of our base camp Special Day. Yes, sleeping bags, pads, backpacks, all of the gear that's in our store is available for using. Renting is the wrong word. There's no extra cost, is available for borrowing, just like it is in every year. If you're in a Summit to Summit Extra program or a Summit to Summit program, make sure you tell the trail coordinator what you need when you're talking with them. And if you're in a base camp program or a hiking wild program, your counselors will help you get what you need when you're at camp. Somebody came late, fully vaccinated. Yeah, so if you are fully vaccinated, you do not need to get a negative PCR test before arrival at camp. Just please come preferably with a copy of the negative, or excuse me, of your vaccination card. But in a clutch, a photo on a phone will still get you entrance. I see a hand up. Maria? Hand up, Maria. You're muted if you're speaking to us currently.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hi. Two things, since you mentioned the whole not getting tested if you're vaccinated. My understanding is that you can still contract COVID if you're vaccinated and spread it. So that doesn't make sense to me that you would not have a PCR test for kids that are also vaccinated or anybody that's vaccinated. But that wasn't my question.
Okay.
My question was if Gavin Newsom lifts, some of the restrictions, maybe the masks, will camp still require the kids to mask when they're doing activities at the craft shack or moving about the basin?
Yeah, so yes, so masks are still required when you're at the craft shack because there's going to be somebody out from outside the cohort there, or anytime that they would have a chance of interacting with people outside their cohort. It's only in situations where they're only with their cohorts that masks are not required. Anytime they would interact with anybody outside their cohort, then they are still going to have to wear masks. So it is important to still bring masks to camp because those are going to be situations that happen.
But even if our governor says that that's not necessary?
Oh, good question. That hasn't happened yet, so we haven't discussed that possibility in our medical team yet. I'll be honest, I don't think that the CDC is going to change their guidance to say that masks are not required in those big group gatherings. Just from the webinars I've been attending about the CDC guidance, it seems to me unlikely that they would make that change. But if the guidance changed, it is possible that we would change our procedures.
Okay, well, we can hope. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, but I don't know. But perhaps I'm wrong and it will happen. I'm not sure. The government is hard to predict, is what it is.
It is. Well, we'll just be hopeful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. What time is pickup? So pickup is different for every group. And Laura, I know you said you were in third session. Your pickup times have not been sent out yet, but we will send them out next week. And by the quiet period prior to camp, I assume you mean the 10-day period beforehand where you're supposed to be doing low risk activities. And if that is what you are in fact referring to, we're just asking in that time before camp for people to just really try and lower their exposure. And so we don't mean a strict quarantine because we know that that's not realistic. We know that people are in other programs, that they're going to things like other summer camps, and that's necessary for their lives. We can't expect everybody to be able to stay home for 10 days and not see anyone in the 10 days they come before camp. But we're asking people to take risk reduction measures in that 10 days to camp to really try and lower their chances of being at camp as getting COVID before they come to camp as possible. And so by that, we do mean doing things like wearing a mask when they go into public, when you're spending times with people outside of your household, spending that time outdoors, avoiding crowded public places, especially crowded indoor spaces, washing your hands, washing them well, and just generally taking care of yourself. And as well in that time to be tracking yourself for how you're feeling, and make sure that you're not coming to camp sick, because the best way we can keep camp safe this summer, absolutely, is by not coming to camp sick. So mail on trail only programs. Yes, the answer is yes, they can get mail on trail only programs because we can deliver them their mail when they have their food drop day. So the advice is if you're going to send mail to someone in a trail program is to send it nice and early so that we make sure that we get it before their food drop so we can actually give it to them. And how many days of food are we carrying at a time? It depends on which group you're in. Some of them will carry as little, and it depends on which part of your trip. The most you would ever carry at one time is 10 days, and the least you would ever carry at one time is 4 days. But it's going to depend on which trip you're on, how much, and which part of your trip you're on, how much food you were carrying. Some will, their numbers will be different. Like some of the summit to summit only programs may have 8 days and 8 days. It might just be split right in the middle. So it's going to depend, but the most that you would be carrying is 10 days at a time. And so again, just recovering it, if camper is fully vaccinated and is past 2 weeks since their second shot, then no, they do not need to get a PCR test before coming. They can bring proof of full vaccination instead of the PCR test. So for so for groups that are in the Summit to Summit Extra program and the Summit to Summit program, we do gear checks over Zoom beforehand. For campers that are in the base camp program or for the hiking and wild program, we don't do those Zoom gear checks. We hike prep the kids for the backpacking trips when they're actually at camp, and we go through their backpacks and make sure they have all the right things. And if they don't have all the right things, then we get them things to borrow from our store when we're at camp. But if you're in a Summit to Summit or Summit to Summit Extra program, then you should have received an email from our trail coordinator to set up a meeting. If you are in a Summit to Summit Extra or a Summit to Summit program, you have not received said email, please email me so that I can make sure that you get that either we have the right email or that it's not going to your spam. And I'll just wait a couple more minutes if there's any more questions, but so far we're seeing thanks. And thank you to everybody for showing up today too. Really wonderful to see all these questions. I love questions, especially the hard ones. They're the best ones, keeps us thinking, which is what it's important to keep us on our feet and make sure that we're thinking of all the things to keep the campers safe and happy. GPSs are allowed. Yes, you can bring a GPS, although they're sort of, I don't know, heavy, and you may not end up deciding you really want to use it. But if you're super into it, you totally should bring it. The GPS is totally allowed. Just to talk to the decision not to test kids, not to get a PCR test for those that are vaccinated. It's in line with the CDC guidance and with the state guidance that came out, is that I believe that I am not the scientist of the CDC, but as I understand, they believe that the risk of transmission from vaccinated people is low enough that in a population as small as summer camps are, that the risk of you getting somebody with COVID is pretty low. If they are in fact vaccinated. But to speak to that, we do recognize that there still is a risk. And so we are still doing rapid antigen testing of everybody around upon arrival. And of course it's experimental and we don't actually know what's going on. Everything here is definitely a little bit something we've never dealt with before. On trail programs, we will be doing swim tests on the trail, yes, and you will most definitely be able to swim on the trail. Every tribe will have a lifeguard, and they will do swim tests on the trail, so everyone will be able to swim. I mean, unless they don't take a test and don't want to swim, then you absolutely don't have to swim. Swimming is optional, not required. Great. Well, then I think it looks like we don't have any more questions. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's really wonderful to see such a good turnout. And yeah, if you have further questions, feel free to email me. Please send your forms to our office manager. Check out our COVID-19 resources page just to get more information about really how to be safe before getting to camp. Because like I said before, the best thing that any of us can do is arrive healthy at UNLA. So please keep safe, keep sane, stay healthy so that we can all have an amazing time this summer at UNLA. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.